Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Dsla. I do want to say that I'm not a financial advisor. You should do your own research before investing money into crypto. Now, if you haven't seen the previous update, make sure to watch that before watching this one. It's going to be linked in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Now, let's jump straight into the TA. So taking a look at Dsla on the daily chart, as you can see, we have a Fibonacci retracement set up here with the swing low that we printed all the way back in January and the swing high that we printed back in April 2021. Our 1.618 target is sitting at 37 cents, the 1.414 at 15.5 cents, and the 1.272 at 8.5 cents. So these are going to be our extension levels on this fib, assuming that we have already printed the bear market low, which is at 0.000340. And that was a great entry point for anyone looking to enter Dsla. Obviously, then we had a move above the immediate resistance that we have here, which was at 0.0005, so 305. We back tested that, and then we saw this move to the upside. So a lot of people are wondering what's going to be happening with this project now and why is it pumping so much. So a lot of low cap altcoins are pumping like this, and I would not be entering here. So I got some guy messaging me in the Telegram chat that we have, and he said that he just entered here, which is very typical for people who are fairly new to the markets, and that's okay to make mistakes, obviously. But I'm trying here to explain and show my mistakes and talk about my mistakes that I've done before, so that you can avoid them. And basically, buying after you've seen a 5x move to the upside in a month, that's not very healthy, because after you've been so overextended, you're going to see a very strong pullback. Okay, at least what I'm expecting here for us for Dsla is to come back and retest a 0.309446, which is the 1.414 Fibonacci retracement level that we have here. Let me just make it a bit smaller here. There we go. That's the 0.236 level. More than that, I think we can potentially come back lower, in all honesty, because we've been very overextended. We're still sitting in the overbought on the daily RSI. So I think we're going to see a pullback. Potentially, we could come back down to the yellow support trend line here. We have been retesting it for many, many times before. So for how many? Well, we had 4 retests, technically speaking, since May of 2022. And each time you come back down there, you see a move to the upside. And this move was fairly strong. So if you want to take some profits now, you can still do so, because we're potentially looking at another 30% move to the downside. So you can buy in slightly cheaper. Well, not slightly, but 30% is pretty cheap, in my opinion. So you can buy 30% more tokens. And that's the way I swing trade. So I would be looking for entries below the 0.236. In all honesty, I do think we're gonna come back lower than that, hopefully. If not, we're gonna enter off of these levels here. I'm gonna let my patrons know in advance, obviously. So feel free to join the Patreon. There's gonna be a ad later on in the video talking about that. So, like I said, we just looked at the daily RSI. What you want to be buying is these points here. Let me show you. You want to be buying this here, this, and this. When you're very oversold, when you're below the index of 30, and the index of 30 is basically where the where the black starts, right? So you have this red zone here. And you're above 30 and below 70. If you're above here, that says that you're overbought. So that means a lot of people are buying into the project, and you're running out of steam slowly but surely, and you're going to start dumping. The faster you go up, the faster you're going to drop down, or the harder you're going to drop down. So I wouldn't be buying into Dsla right now, as it's a low cap gem, and typically we see these strong corrections for Dsla. For example, here we saw a move of 70% from November until January. Next up, we had this little wick to the upside, taking us 133%. That's exactly what we retested here in February. For example, here in August, we saw a pullback of 62%. Here we saw a pretty strong wick to the upside, once again, taking us 100% up Ideally, where I would like to see the DSLA token come down to is this yellow support trend line here at 0.0005162. That's going to be a good level for us to retest, as we've seen that before in October of 2022. And like I said, don't FOMO in. This is a low cap project. You can see that every time we have this spike to the upside, we have a move back down. So I'm not saying that I'm certain 100% that we're going to be coming back down, but after being on the markets for a very long time, these low cap gems do this all the time. They have these strong pumps and then these strong dumps. For example, from the all-time high right now, we're down 98.7%. So this is probably the bear market bottom unless Bitcoin decides to drop below its local low that we printed in November. But, you know, this is probably the bottom. We've corrected 98%, and now we're going to be seeing moves to the upside. Hopefully we're going to break above the 0.5 fairly soon, but obviously I would like to see a retracement back down so that I can dollar cost average into DSLA. And yeah, that's also something that you have to take a look at is the daily EMAs here. So the 20 EMA and the 55 EMA, which is the yellow and the red EMAs respectively, they just printed a bullish cross here at the start of February. And we're getting very overextended from them. They're already flipping vertical, which is unhealthy because you want the EMAs to be horizontal, right? Or at least diagonal, because when you come back down for support, you want to bounce off them and you want to continue your uptrend. But that is not going to be possible when the EMAs are facing, you know, the sky, basically. When you're coming back down, you typically just lose them, and then you have a pretty strong correction, and then you have that bear cross come into play. And, you know, you have a correction to the downside. So hopefully we get a pretty strong correction here. If we come back down, for example, to the 0.0005 level, that would be a 70% correction. So just about the usual correction that we see from these altcoins here. As you can see, 63%, and then we see 70% here. And every time you see these moves to the upside, you have a 60 to 70% correction. So once you get into the 0.0006 to 0.0005 level, that's where you could start dollar cost averaging, in my opinion. But I'm not a financial advisor, obviously. So potentially, we could be seeing these numbers in the next bull market, closer to the peak, hopefully. No one knows how overextended these projects can get, but we do know that the DSLA token supply is fully diluted, so we don't have to be worrying about any new tokens being dumped into the circulation. So 5 billion tokens in total supply means that if we get to a $5 billion market cap, we'd have a $1 DSLA. But in all honesty, obviously, I don't think that's going to be happening this bull market. However, anything can happen, but I'm just saying don't be this moon boy, and you don't want to be hanging with your tokens when we see another crash. Imagine all the people here that were waiting for 3 cents, right? They were sitting here, they did not sell, and then we had this pullback into July. And then we went up once again, and they thought, well, now we're getting to 3 cents again, most definitely. And then we saw another pullback. So you don't want to be that moon boy. You want to have your targets set up in advance, and you want to know what you're doing. So hopefully that's something I can teach you here on the channel. Let's go back and let's bring out the other fib retracement that I had on the chart. Wow, okay, there we go. So we had another fib retracement here, and let's remove the larger one and let's take a look at the smaller one here. So we have the swing high in September of 2022, which is exactly where we are right now, or where we were right now. And the first level, was at the 0.000577 level, and that's in June of 2022. Our 1.618 target was at 302877. We didn't go that low, however, we managed to wick below the 1.414 at 0.000361. So this was a very good entry point for anyone looking to enter DSLA off of this Fibonacci level. If you had some buy limit orders over here and they didn't fill, well, tough luck. This is what happens on the markets. That's why if you were sitting all in at this 1.618, you wouldn't have been filled, and you wouldn't have any profits. However, if you spread out your buy limit orders like this, then the top ones would have been filled and you could have already made 5x. See? And now when you're coming back down, you can just dollar cost average at these prices here. So you have to be careful and smart about the decisions you make, and you have to have a plan in advance. You always need a plan, never deviate from it, because things will go to shit if you do. I can promise you that. So that's pretty much it. Long term, like I said, we're looking at those 3 targets in the bull market. Short term, before the year is over, I do think we might potentially come back up to half a cent. Maybe, I don't know, depends on what the markets do, but I would say half a cent is somewhat plausible, because that's the golden ratio that we have on the large fib, and that's the most important resistance level out of all. So potentially what can happen here is that we come back down, print this dead cat bounce, and then come back down, or come back lower potentially to retest either of these fib levels, because the golden ratio is the most important resistance level. As you can see, we were holding it as support here. We broke down below and we never had the back test of resistance. So potentially that's what we're going to get down the line with a back test of one of the fib levels below, and then towards 2024, that's when we're going to be starting to hit those targets, and into 2025 we're going to be looking at the new bull market. So hopefully that was clear and understandable. Hopefully you don't FOMO into anything really, because you had so much time to buy into all the altcoins you possibly could have wanted to buy into, and now once they started pumping, you want to buy at these local highs. Just don't do that, please. I'm not a financial advisor once again, but be smart and buy off support levels. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to check out the Patreon and the Twitter linked down below. I'm going to see you in the next one. Goodbye and good night.